Welcome to our regular council meeting of April 20th. We will begin the meeting with the city clerk calling the roll for attendance at today's meeting.
Members of council, I will call your name. Please indicate your presence. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon.
I'm here, Peter.
Councillor Singh is present. Councillor Fortini.
I'm here, Peter. Good morning.
Councillor Williams.
I'm here. Good morning.
Councillor Bowman. Present. Councillor Paleshi.
Good morning, present.
Councillor Willens.
Present.
Councillor Vasante. Present. Councillor Santos. Present. Chair Medeiros is present. And I do not see Mayor Brown present at the moment. So you have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now at item 2, approval of the agenda. Does any member wish to add a business item to today's agenda meeting? If so, please use the chat function to add your name to the speakers list. Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I have spoken with the staff as well as the clerk, and there is one item that staff are recommending to add to the in-camera agenda. A closed session item being a verbal update relating to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a position plan procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. City solicitor knows about the item as well. And also, just if we can, deal with this item by about 11:15. People are coming in to delegate in camera and have asked if council could please provide them that opportunity with respect to timing. Thank you.
I see no further speakers, but Councillor Willens? Yeah, Councillor Willens, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor. Peter, just to clarify, I wanted to make sure I was going to add a motion today, but I thought it'd be best to add it to committee so council has time to review it. I don't particularly like walk-on motions. So just to be clarified, I can add it next week because I did send it to you on time.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Councillor, we will discuss offline. That motion was filed prior to the deadline for next week's Committee of Council, so we can discuss adding it to the meeting next week.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Okay, to the clerk, I don't have the speakers list. I just need to log in. Who's the next speaker?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, is Councillor Paleshi.
Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask that when we vote on approval of the agenda, that item 19.8, the addition, be voted on separately? Thank you.
And through you, Mr. Chair, just to provide some additional updates for council. Item 19.7 listed on the revised agenda is a closed session item regarding meeting exception under section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act. Personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. That item was inadvertently omitted from the inclusion on the original agenda, as it was a matter that was directed from a previous council meeting. Also, in regards, excuse me, to delegations, we have an added delegation 7.5 on today's agenda. It's a delegation from DeWitt Lee of Emancipation Month and Black Voter Base regarding Notice of Motion 15.1 on today's agenda regarding installing a permanent flagpole at Emancipation Park. And finally, there is an added delegation for the delegation items under 6.1. It'll be delegation, or excuse me, added proclamation E regarding Parental Alienation Day on April 25th. And those are some updates for today's agenda.
To the city clerk, I believe Francis in my office received a request about the Journey to Freedom.
So that'll have to be added as an item.
Added item. Okay, can we add the Journey to Freedom for the Vietnamese community as an additional item?
So that would be a discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown regarding a motion to include Journey to Freedom Day as a corporate event. So, Mr. Chair, there's been a request to have two separate votes. Both require 2/3. So the first vote would be on adding to the agenda item 16.2, which would be a discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown regarding the motion a motion regarding Journey to Freedom Day as a corporate event. And after that, there would be a separate vote, as requested from Councillor Paleshi, to add Councillor Santos's proposed addition, which is 19.8, an open meeting exception under Section 239 to C and K of the Municipal Act regarding a verbal update, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a position plan procedure, criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. And with that item proposed to be added, there's a request to vary the order to deal with that item before 11:15. So my recommendation or advice through you, Mr. Mayor, to council would be to go into closed session if this item is added immediately following delegations to deal with this item. So there's two votes. The first vote is approving the agenda to add 16.2, which is your item, Mayor Brown, and followed by the separate vote on 19.8 from Councillor Santos, the closed session.
Okay, I'll get some of the tech stuff. I still can't get the speakers list, so maybe if you could come down and just help me set that up, and the clerk, Councillor Fortini.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I missed it. So we have delegations going in camera? Is that what I'm hearing?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a request to add an item, 19.8, to provide a verbal update, and I believe a councillor said that may involve delegations.
Well, you know, my thing is every time we try to add delegations in camera, we have an issue. You know, anyway, I'll see what the other speakers say, but, you know, it would be nice if we know what's it about and why we're adding in-camera delegations to come in when they should be out in the open.
So, Councillor Santos, you wanted to respond to that?
Sure, I can respond to that, or perhaps or staff can respond. Perhaps Samir, city solicitor, can respond. But I know that there are, I think I could share it. There are requests from the president of two post-secondary institutions coming in to delegate based on existing negotiations, and this was a city staff request to add it to the agenda.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mccallion will be coming down to speak to this issue.
Okay, so I now have the speakers list. I have Councillor Paleshi next. Did I miss anyone? Okay, Councillor Paleshi.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I put those requests to speak in about 5 minutes ago. I lost connection, so I don't know where we are now. So I'll stand down.
Okay. Councillor Medeiros?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree with Councillor Fortini on some items. I will, based on what the delegations, it's really hard for us to understand the information. We've had post-secondary education institutions, presidents come in and do asks, financial asks in public. We had Sheridan College, we had Ryerson. So based on what the information is, I have no idea what they want to delegate on. But, you know, I, for one, won't feel comfortable if there's new information or if there's any requests that be made in camera, and I would ask that it be moved out in public. I'll wait to see what the content is, but again, we're at a disadvantage, and this file, and I say this to the CAO, this whole file has been done in this manner which we don't have fulsome information. So, you know, we don't have a report's next week, but the presidents aren't available next week. They're coming in today, they're going to bring in a delegation. I have no idea what the delegation's about. And then we sit here and we're forced to make a decision on items and information that we're not fully prepared to do. So this file I have a lot of issues with. I will wait to see what the in-camera is, but if I find a lot of this information should be held in public, I will move that we come out in public. I don't see why an institution that's making a request for financial support, and I have no idea if this is the case, other institutions have come here in public and we owe it to our community. We get constantly asked on what's happening. There's been a lot of miscommunication regarding Brampton U, other institutions, so I want to be very clear that I will accept this now, but if we get in camera, I will move that we come out in public. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see another speakers list. Oh, Councillor Santos?
Thank Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I think it was suggested for this, as much as possible, be held in public session in terms of as much information in public session as possible. But through the city solicitor, I believe that the delegates have requested for it to be in camera. And unfortunately, we can't control whether or not delegates want to delegate in camera or in public session. So perhaps the city solicitor can comment.
Through the chair, this item is a verbal update by staff. As part of that verbal update, staff have invited some external parties to provide information to council. The verbal update relates to the two exceptions that are listed with the item under the Municipal Act.
Okay, I don't see any other speakers.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the first vote would be on approving the agenda to add your discussion item 16.2 regarding Journey to Freedom Day as a corporate event. That would be followed by a separate vote requested by Councillor Paleshi to vote on Councillor Santos's proposed item 19.8, the closed session item we've been discussing, and also to vary the order to deal with 19.8 if it's added after the delegations.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agenda first.
The first motion is to approve the agenda to add 16.2, and then we'll take a separate vote on 19.8.
Okay. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Medeiros. Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, now we take the next motion.
The next motion is to approve the addition of 19.8, the proposed closed session item from Councillor Santos, and to vary the order to deal with that immediately after delegations are completed.
Okay.
And we have a recorded vote there, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Moved by Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Singh.
Sorry.
Recorded vote.
What do we
The
do?
recorded vote has been requested. All members, please indicate whether you're in favor or opposed to the motion to add 19.8 to the agenda and vary the order to deal with that item immediately following delegations. Councillor Dillon.
No.
Councillor Singh. That's a yes. Councillor Fortini.
No.
It's a no. Councillor Williams.
No.
No. Councillor Medeiros.
No.
That's a no. Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
That's a yes. Councillor Paleshi.
No.
It's a no. Councillor Willens.
No.
Councillor Visante.
Yes.
That's a yes. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
That's a yes. Mayor Brown.
Yes.
It's a yes. The motion to add the new business item does not carry. The required 2/3 is not achieved. The vote is 5-6.
Do we need a motion on the entirety?
No, we can proceed. Yeah.
Okay, this takes us to declarations of interest, Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Does any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? The clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. Adoption of minutes. We're now ready to move to the next item of public business on today's council agenda. Item 4 minutes. We have the following council minutes before us today. 4.1 minutes, City Council regular meeting, April 6, 2022. Do any members have questions or comments regarding the minutes? If so, please use the chat function to add your name to the speaker's list. Looking at both lists. There is none. I have a motion moved by Councillor Visante, seconded by Councillor Bowman to approve the minutes as published. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, the vote will count in the affirmative. Hearing none, no objections, the motion carries. This takes us to consent motion. Council, as part of the consent motion process, I will read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion. Any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. I'll start by reading the relevant agenda items, and the members can identify any items held for debate. 10.21 staff report, asset naming, various street and park naming request. 12, Councilor Medeiros. 12.1 minutes, Committee of Council, March 30th, 2022.
Sorry, Mayor Brown, was that held, the last one?
Yes.
Thank you, sorry.
Everyone seemed to say hold at the same time. 12.1 minutes, Committee of Council, March 30th, 2022. 12.2 minutes, Planning and Development Committee, April 1st, 2022. 14.1 correspondence with Marvin Rotran, National Director, League for Human Rights, Benign Birth Canada, dated March 24th, request to declare every May as Jewish Heritage Month in the City of Brampton. 19.1 closed session minutes, Brampton Environmental Advisory Committee, April 5th, 2022. 19.2 closed session minutes, City Council, April 6th. 19.3 closed session minutes, Committee of Council, April 13th. 19.4 open session meeting exception 2392CK of the Municipal Act. The clerk will summarize items to be included in a consent motion for approval.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, was 10.21 held? I missed it. Name and the parks?
Yes.
Oh, it was held. Okay, thank you.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the only one item that's being held for debate with the balance identified to be on consent is the staff report on asset naming, various street and park naming assets held by Councilor Medeiros. The following items are to be included on the consent motion, 12.1 and 12.2. Minutes from Committee of Council, March 30th. Minutes of Planning and Development Committee of April 11th. 14.1, correspondence from B'nai B'rith Canada regarding a request to declare every May as Jewish Heritage Month in the City of Brampton. 19.1, closed session minutes, Brampton Environment Advisory Committee of April 5th. 19.2, closed session minutes, City Council, April 6, 2022. 19.3, closed session minutes, Committee of Council, April 13th, 2022. And 19.4, open session minutes, open session meeting exception or section 239 to C and K of the Municipal Act. That item is to be added to the consent motion.
Councilor Medeiros?
Sorry, it's from previous time.
Okay, I have a motion moved by Councilor Santos, seconded by Councilor Medeiros to approve the consent motion. As per a process agreed to by Council, the consent motion will be subject to a recorded vote.
All in favor of the consent motion or opposed, please indicate. Councilor Dillon.
Yeah.
Councilor Singh. Yes. It's a yes. Councilor Fortini.
Yes.
Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Councilor Medeiros.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councilor Bowman.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councilor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councilor Willens.
Yes.
Councilor Vasante.
Yes.
That's a yes. Councilor Santos.
Yeah.
It's a yes. Mayor Brown.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously, 11-0.
Okay, this takes us to announcements. We have a few announcements today. We have National Volunteer Week. Volunteer MBC fuels purposeful connections between the people and respond to the most pressing social issues in our community and seeks to improve lives through volunteerism. National Volunteer Week recognizes and appreciates and celebrates the volunteers who have risen to the occasion for the betterment of our communities. The theme of NVW 2022 is Empathy in Action. We will encourage and inspire the spirit of greater community volunteerism and allow everyone to improve their health, well-being, and develop their skills and employability and increase their sense of purpose and belonging. I, Mayor Patrick Brown, on behalf of Brampton City Council, do hereby proclaim April 24th to 30th as National Volunteer Week in the City of Brampton. And I believe we have a representative here from a volunteer MBC. I'm looking to the clerk. Are we going to give them an opportunity to say a word, or is that done afterwards?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they can say a word after the proclamation.
Okay.
It's limited to 2 minutes to respond. Yeah.
Okay. The next proclamation is Human Values Day. April 24th marks Human Values Day, a day to raise and increase awareness of the basic values of truth, right conduct, peace, love, and nonviolence, as well as the multiple sub-values like honesty, integrity, kindness, and caring. These values are inherent in all creeds, countries, cultures, and communities, making these values truly values without borders, making the City of Brampton a city of character of the greatest benefit to all our residents. Unlike other walks, Walk for Values is not a fundraiser, but a way to make the city richer and healthier by pledging our commitment to practice these human values and be motivated to serve our community through the volunteer work. Walk for Values is designed to raise the awareness of human values, to promote individual responsibility towards the collective future of humanity. Walk for Values is a platform to educate people on the importance of practicing these 5 human values in daily life and awareness it creates to making and enlighten citizens for universal peace. Our next proclamation is Gujarat Day. Friends of Gujarat is a not-for-profit initiative of Canada's Gujaratis to connect to Gujaratis to the mainstream and promote the arts and culture of Gujarat. There are over 350,000 Gujaratis in Canada, over 50,000 residing in Brampton. Gujarat is a state in Western India, sometimes referred to as the jewel of Western India. It has an area of 196,000 square kilometers with a coastline of 1,600 kilometers and a population in excess of 60 million. The state is bordered by Rajasthan to the north, Maharashtra to the south, Madhya Pradesh to the east, and the Arabian Sea and the Pakistani province of Sindhi to the west. Gujarat's capital city is Gandhinagar, while its largest city is Ahmedabad. Gujarat is home to the Gujarati-speaking people of India. A recent report by the Vishu Gujarati Samaj claims Gujaratis comprise around 33% of Indian diaspora worldwide and can be found in 129 of 190 countries listed as sovereign nations by the United Nations. Gujarat Day aims to bring the community together and help create a voice of Gujaratis in Brampton and help promote the rich arts and culture of Gujarat. Our last proclamation is National Youth Week. May 1st to 7th, 2022 marks National Youth Week in Canada. This week is dedicated to the celebration of youth and their active participation in the community. Meaningful youth engagement emphasizes access, equity, and social fairness and leads to positive youth and community development. National Youth Week reminds us of the valuable contributions that the youth-centric programs can make to youth development and can make to a community development. And Brampton youth-serving organizations across functional city departments place an emphasis on the importance of intentional youth development through the opportunities in arts and drama, recreation, sports, civic engagement, networking, career building, volunteerism, and leadership and training. In recognition of these benefits and values, residents are encouraged to recognize and support the positive contributions of youth in our community. Now I have another proclamation here that's not on the list, the Parental, this was added, okay. So we have one more actually. Parental Alienation Awareness Day. Parental alienation is often found in high conflict separations, divorces, and custody disputes and takes advantage of the dependency and responsibility of a child. Parental Alienation Awareness Day encourages parents to put their children first and learn to co-parent. Parental alienation deprives children of their rights to love and be loved by both parents. Behaviors such as speaking negatively about a parent to or in front of a child can destroy the bond between a loving parent and a child. Medical professionals agree to issue the parental alienation exists and can cause mental and emotional harm to a child and can affect them as adults for tragic consequences. This year is the 11th annual Bubbles of Love Day on April 25th. Everyone is asked to blow soap bubbles and wear royal blue to support children being loved by both parents. With awareness comes education, understanding, and the power to stop the cycle of abuse. Those are our proclamations for today. And I see we have one organization that's in attendance today. That's Volunteer MBC. If you wanted to say a word to accept the proclamation.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members. We're delighted, on behalf of Volunteer MBC, we're delighted to have received the proclamation for National Volunteer Week. For us, it's truly an opportunity during National Volunteer Week to recognize the thousands of volunteers across the city of Brampton that have made a very significant difference, especially during these past 2 years, which have been very, very trying. Some of them were formal, some of them were informal volunteering, but they have all made huge contributions, young and old, newcomers from across the city of Brampton. They have made a huge difference. And if I could just add a very shameless plug, we have our Voskers, our volunteer recognition event. It is virtual this coming Thursday, and we will be recognizing, we have a huge number of nominations. There were close to 100 nominations this time, which is unprecedented unprecedented, and across the very different categories of recognizing leaders of tomorrow, Lifetime Achievement Award, the Hazel Mccallion Award, and in fact, the Hazel Mccallion Award is the only award that's determined ahead of the event, and it's actually a Brampton citizen that will be receiving that, and his name is John Digby. And John is well recognized with the Brampton Rotary Club, but also for his huge contributions to volunteerism with Peel Children's Aid and many, many other initiatives, including Holy Gala, which just took place. So we just wanted to say that we're very, very grateful, and you can tune in to the Oscars on Thursday night and watch from the comfort of your home and get the popcorn out and really have an opportunity to recognize the amazing volunteers. So thank you very much.
Okay. Question? Councilor Medeiros?
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, and notwithstanding the organization being in my ward, I'm very proud of it and all the work that you've done over the last couple of years, and I always had an amazing time at the V Oscars. I still remember that boxing theme and George Chuvalo and all that, like that was an amazing time. Speaking more seriously on the National Volunteer Week, and one thing that always goes not appreciated, I find, just from the public and civil society, is the economic impact that volunteering has. Because we look at it as something as benevolence and, and they're all that good stuff with it, but the economic impact is huge. And that goes unaccounted for many times. If you can maybe just touch upon that, I think, just for awareness. The second aspect, if you can tell me, because I know a lot of businesses have been impacted with COVID and so on, have you found through your organization as well, getting volunteers or trying to connect organization volunteers, has that had a negative impact as well?
Yes, so the second part of your question, absolutely. There's been a huge impact because, volunteering virtually for many was difficult at first. Many organizations, when they had to let go of staff because of reduced funding, the first thing that went was their coordinators or managers of volunteerism. So without those individuals in place that make a huge impact to make the volunteers to coordinate all their efforts, that has had a huge impact. So there's a very significant imbalance right now between the number of volunteers that still want to contribute versus the opportunities that the organizations have available. We have worked very closely with the region of Peel and the city of Brampton through the CRT table to make sure that we assist the informal groups as well, because they have really had to step up. And in fact, Volunteer MBC, we had to initiate our own volunteer drivers program to assist the member organizations with food deliveries and other supplies. And we're still doing that. It's reduced a little bit because we no longer have funding for that, but there's been a huge impact, and it will take a lot of effort to try to rebuild volunteerism, and I shouldn't say rebuild. It's more that we're wanting to build forward, because we want to build forward better and have a better future for the volunteers. And as you mentioned, the economic impact is huge. If you look at the average volunteer in Canada and in Peel, it does 129 hours a year. And even that, that's very, very modest. But if you put a figure to that, even an average of $26 an hour, you can appreciate, when we refer over 30,000 volunteers on an annual basis, and many of them are from Brampton, and there's some, of course, from Mississauga and Caledon as well. But, it's not hard to figure out what kind of an economic impact volunteers truly make.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
everything you do.
Really appreciate it.
Our next item is public delegations. This relates to item 12.3, Committee of Council Recommendations, CW 168, 2022 on today's agenda. I'll ask the clerk if there's anyone that wants to delegate to this proposed bylaw amendment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is no one who's registered online. I'll just ask, as there are people in the audience, if anybody's here to speak to proposed amendment to user fee bylaw 380-2004 as amended regarding transit division user fees. And seeing none, Mr. Mayor, there are no delegations for this item.
This takes us to item 7.2, delegation from Pete Danos, Inspector, Road Safety Services, Peel Regional Police. Item 12.3, Committee of Council Recommendation, CW 162, 2022. And item 13.2, the establishment of a Road Safety Committee. Item 13.2 is on the March 24th minutes of the Brampton Community Safety Advisory Committee. At April 13th Committee of Council meeting, these minutes were referred to today's council meeting. We have this delegation from Inspector Danos regarding the committee minutes, and specifically the committee recommendation BC S005 2022. We can deal with the committee minutes after the delegation. Welcome, Inspector Danos. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, Your Worship, Mayor Patrick Brown, and respective council members. My name is Peter Danos. I'm the Inspector in charge of Peel Regional Police Road Safety Services. I assumed command of Road Safety Services in June 2020. That year was a tragic and record year for motor vehicle collisions, resulting in fatalities and life-altering injuries in the region of Peel. 22 fatalities, 25 serious injuries on our Brampton roads alone. Next slide, please. Analyzing the data over a 5-year period, Brampton has seen an average of 16 fatalities and 34 serious life-altering injuries on our roadways, totaling an annual average of 50 victims. Comparatively, and not to undermine the great collaboration to address addiction, on average, 61 opioid deadly overdoses occur annually in the city of Brampton. The reality is, tragic loss of life to opioids and victimization on our roads is comparable. Next slide, please. To address road violence, Road Safety Services has adopted the Community Safety and Wellbeing Model, and a comprehensive plan will be presented to the Region of Peel by 2023. In January of 2021, Chief Nishan Duriappa immediately redeployed 8 officers to Road Safety Services to address the aforementioned public safety concerns. With these officers, the Safer Roads team was created to focus on high-risk prolific driving offenders, street racing, and modified vehicles responsible for noise pollution. The Road Watch program was rejuvenated and streamlined through a more efficient community online reporting system. The community spoke and we listened. This said, our improved community safety and well-being service delivery model is in line with Regional Vision Zero short-term goal to decrease collision-related fatalities and injuries per capita, and the long-term goal, which is zero harm and 0 deaths on our roads. Next slide, please. Fortunately, 2021 data suggests that fatalities and life-altering collision-related injuries are trending downward. No doubt, this is due to the excellent and collaborative work conducted by city technical analysts, traffic safety engineers, and committees such as the Brampton School Traffic Safety Committee. Automated speed enforcement and red light cameras have been an excellent technological speed calming initiatives. It is my respectful position today that an opportunity exists to strike a standalone Brampton Road Safety Committee with a broader scope to address community road safety concerns and to fulfill the Vision Zero mission for Brampton. Potential guiding principles, composition, and terms of reference for the new committee can be imagined if this delegation is approved by council today. However, after completing an environmental scan of other road safety committees, I would suggest that the committee include elected officials, citizens, city traffic safety staff, and the Peel Regional Police. If approved, the committee will support the Vision Zero mandate with a collaborative community safety and well-being focus on social development, crime prevention, and risk mitigation to decrease road violence for the city of Brampton. Next slide, please. I want to thank City Council, and I'm open for any questions today.
Okay, I see there's some questions. We have Councillor Williams, Councillor Willens, and Councillor Santos. I can't tell which one came in first, the screen here or the ones on the remote. Okay, Councillor Williams is first.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Hi, Pete. I wish I could be there, but my daughter's homesick, so I have to stay home and do this virtually, but it's always great to see you. And thank you for your delegation. Your team has been so instrumental in seeing our roads be safer in Brampton, and you have been always committed to ensuring that we have the tools available to us through Road Watch and you know, just through your advocacy to empower our residents to do something about the roads that they live on and that they have to travel every single day. So thank you so much for your hard work and dedication. I just have a couple questions, and you mentioned that the road safety is not it's not a pillar right now on the community safety and well-being plan. If we were to do this and have a road safety committee for Brampton, how does that support the need to see road safety recognized as a community safety and well-being initiative because of how comparable road deaths and tragedies are to opioids, which is on the community safety and well-being plan? So could you speak to that and let us know how it would be supportive?
Absolutely, Councillor, and thank you for acknowledging my team for the great work that they've been doing with respect to road safety. With respect to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, the original Vision Zero Committee was established in 2019 prior to the implementation of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, the regional plan. And the Vision Zero Committee is basically responsible for road safety for the entire region appeal, which includes obviously Mississauga and Brampton. So right now the collaboration between Vision Zero and Mississauga is established through a Mississauga Road Safety Committee. The deputation that I'm bringing forward today would certainly bring a Brampton Road Safety Committee to the table so that the collaboration between the two cities and the regional committee of Vision Zero would be a better fit for that communication back and forth between the two committees.
Absolutely, and we do have many conversations, and now I chair the Community Safety Committee for the City of Brampton, and I believe it was in 2020, we did establish a subcommittee, and you had delegated to the committee to speak to the importance of having some focus in Brampton for road safety. And I know there was an attempt to have a committee strike for next term, but the plan to have the subcommittee was done first. And but now we do see the benefit to having a standalone committee because we don't have a member of our public works team sitting at the community safety committee to be able to help guide some of the conversations. And then also having a standalone committee for the City of Brampton will be able to see that residents have a means and a way of addressing some of the roads that they are on and some of the areas that they're really concerned with, and be able to come up with strategies. So it is a good direction. Now the motion was moved at community safety for this to happen, but it was deferred, and having you come here today to speak to us is so important because my concern is that if it's deferred to the June 23rd meeting, there won't be enough time for our community safety committee to see what the terms of reference are and what staff come back to us for the new term of council to consider for next term. And Peter, can you just confirm, when is the last community safety committee meeting in Brampton?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it is the June 23rd meeting. I don't know if one is scheduled in September, but I'll verify that.
Yeah, I don't believe there is because of the elections coming up. So in order for our community safety committee to be able to see what staff come back with as the bones for the term, citizen appointed committee for next term. It would be good for us to be able to have that prepared for June 23rd so that they can review it. And so that's why I'm bringing this today. And I'm really asking that the council approve the adoption of the original motion that was introduced on March 24th instead of having it deferred to the June meeting. And so that's why we're here. I just have a question though for Kevin Miniker. He is our road guru and he's been very helpful. Kevin, if you're here, do you have a rough estimate on the amount of calls and concerns that we get for our roads in Brampton?
Yes, I'm here, Councillor, and through the chair to Councillor Williams. We've been trending upwards in our service requests over the last few years. I think last year we received up to 1,800 service requests for the traffic operations group. That does not include service requests for traffic signals group and some of the other groups within traffic services.
Wow, that's a significant increase. And I think that is due to us really pushing our residents to call Road Watch and to let us know the areas that we're having the most concerns. And so having this road safety committee will be very helpful in having our community come up with strategies and also review some of these areas of concern. I also sit on the Brampton School Traffic Safety Committee, and when a person is concerned with a school zone, we have a form that residents and teachers and principals can fill out to have staff and our committee members, come out and do an observation of the area. And so I just think this is a really great opportunity for this road safety committee to be able to do these type of things, get out in the community, see what our residents are concerned with, and be able to support our staff and come up with some solutions as well, so that we can help reduce, or address some of these calls that are coming in. 1,800, that's pretty significant. So thanks so much for that, that input, Kevin. I am going to turn to the motion that I would like to put on the floor. And again, we know we can't dictate what happens at the next term of council. However, if the bones are created and the framework is there for a committee, it's just plug and go, right? And so the motion that I have here, in case everybody hasn't seen it, it says, whereas the city of Brampton continues to experience injury-related and fatal collisions amongst road users, whereas Vision Zero can be summarized in one sentence: no loss of life is acceptable. Whereas in June 2019, the City of Brampton Council adopted the Vision Zero framework as a foundation to ensure that our roads are safe for all that use them through a data-driven effort by prioritizing emphasis areas, coordinating with partners and stakeholders to improve road safety and implementing new or expanded safety countermeasures. Whereas in September 2020, the City of Brampton Council implemented the use of automated speed enforcement cameras to decrease speeding in all community safety zones. Whereas on December 10th, 2020, the City of Brampton Community Safety Advisory Committee established a road safety advisory subcommittee to address traffic-related fatalities and speeding. Whereas efforts to reduce speeding and traffic-related collisions in the region of Peel is still reporting a substantial number of traffic-related collisions on our Brampton roads. Whereas the City of Mississauga currently has a council-appointed committee to address road safety issues, and the City of Brampton does not. Whereas Brampton Safety Committee will align core goals and missions with the Vision Zero Task Force and the Regional Community Safety and Wellbeing Framework. Now, I do have an amended, therefore be it resolved, since it was, and you have it there already. Thanks, Charlotte and Peter. That council established a Brampton Road Safety Advisory Committee composed primarily of citizen appointees to begin for the new term of council in November 2022. And that is also pending approval of the new term of council, should they see the value in having this committee. And I'm hoping that the new term of council does see the value. and is able to support the great work that's happening at the City of Brampton and with Pete Danos' team at Peel Regional Police. And so that is the motion on the floor. And I believe Councillor Bertini is seconding it, but however, it would be great to see all of council second this motion, because I do know all of us on council have spoken passionately about road safety concerns, and we all want to see our roads safer for all of our residents and come up with framework and solutions to help facilitate that. So this is the motion on the floor. Inspector Danos, again, thank you so much for all of your work. Please say hi to Constable Claudia. She has been really great with helping us identify key areas and roads through Road Watch, and our residents, they thoroughly enjoy dealing with your team and do see that there are some steps being taken. So this is the motion on the floor. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councillor Willens.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Williams, and thank you, Inspector Danos, for coming in. I support this 100%. Just as you, council is aware, and as the mayor's office is aware too, Councillor Mccallion and I have been receiving some emails and some concerns about some intersections in our wards too, actually in a matter of a week, very serious accidents. So I welcome this with open arms. Yeah, that's really all I got to say. I think we need to do this now and get it in place for the next term of council. So thank you again, Councillor Williams, for bringing this forward. And again, thank you, Inspector Danos.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay. Next on the list is Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming in to delegate. It's very nice to see you. In your delegation, you had listed a few technology items that have been successful in slowing down traffic and dealing with speeding in particular. I know from speaking with public works staff as well, there are other things that have been done to slow down traffic, including environmental design, narrowing of roads, increasing more space for pedestrians and cyclists. Could you speak to some of those factors as well? Because I would hate to just put the onus specifically on technology all the time. I think that there are other creative solutions to slow down traffic.
Thank you, Councillor. Great question. And you know, through my tenure in road safety services, I can certainly tell you that our collisions, specifically related to collisions that result in death or serious injury, are completely preventable and avoidable. And that doesn't mean that that enforcement is the solution for everything. Technology has been great, as you mentioned, as a speed calming measure and the behavior of driving in the community. You can see that the speeds are definitely decreasing. When collisions do occur as a result of speed, the lower the speed, the greater the probability that the injuries won't be that severe. But we also see that boulevards are being added, bicycle lanes, signage, engineering has come in to change the landscape of the roads, change the cadence of lights at intersections, which definitely assists with calming the speeds and encouraging good driving behavior, as opposed to leaving areas that encourage poor driving behavior. For example, in locations where we know that there's high instances of stunt driving, specifically racing, we collaborate with our city planners to perhaps add boulevards to deter racers from attending these locations. So you're absolutely correct, Councillor. It's not just enforcement, it's not just technology. A big component is collaboration and target hardening these areas so that safer driving is promoted.
Thank you so much. And as the City of Brampton has been prioritizing active transportation, narrowing our roadways, etc., in order to create less of a what is described as an airport runway for cars to be incentivized to speed, will this particular, or have you seen road safety advisory committees in particular help with educating drivers, educating pedestrians, educating cyclists on how to properly share the road as per the Vision Zero principles?
Absolutely. One of the most important fundamentals of road safety is education, and through the different committees, the road safety committees, whether it's the traffic safety committee or the bicycle safety committee, we support each other's educational campaigns. I can think of MAD being the biggest one, obviously a drinking and driving campaign, but Safe Pedestrian Weeks, Safe Bicycling Week, Return to School Week for students. These are campaigns that through social media platforms, through the media, through word of mouth, we support each other to make sure that the public is aware. With respect to the Peel Regional Police, ahead of our enforcement campaigns, whether they're stunt driving campaigns or school bus campaigns, we make sure we add a week as a buffer to let people know that we're going to be out there and we're going to be conducting blitzes for public safety reasons. Please adjust your driving behavior accordingly.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Councillor Paleschi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Brown. Thank you, Inspector Danos, for coming in and delegating today. I'm going to build off of what Councillor Willens was talking about with respect to Ward 2 and the two very serious accidents that just occurred in the past 2 weeks. One just yesterday where it resulted in a child being sent to the hospital at Sandalwood in Ridgeville. With this road safety committee, I'm sure that it will be focusing more on proactive areas that we could be looking at in the city of Brampton. But can you walk me through kind of the reactive of yourself, your team, the city of Brampton on an intersection like Sandalwood and Ridgeville that has now had these two could have been deadly accidents?
Absolutely, Councillor, and thank you for the question. I hope my team isn't offended, but probably the most important person in our unit is our crime analyst. And the reason why I say that is because we are a data-driven, evidence-based unit. And what that means is our crime analyst creates quarterly reports based on collision data and high-risk locations. Based on our quarterly reports, we deploy our officers accordingly in those locations because they've been identified as high risk. And there are 20 locations. Unfortunately, we can only police the top 20, but the top 20 locations are identified, and our officers are deployed accordingly based on the enforcement required, whether that's enforcing the lights, enforcing speeds, enforcing impairment in driving laws. So getting back to your question, we are a data-driven and a response-driven unit with respect to the collisions already occurring. Following that, our Road Watch program is also a means of receiving information from our citizens, our elected officials, so that we react to citizen complaints with respect to speeding, noise pollution, stop signs, light infractions, intersection infractions, so that we could proactively prevent collisions, specifically fatal collisions or life-altering injuries as a result of a collision.
Thank you for that, Inspector Danos. I guess, Inspector Danos, and I know data is one of our key tools that we use to fight anything across the board, and when we're looking at making things a lot safer. Data for, and I referenced one email that Councillor Willens and I and the mayor both received, that a number of accidents happen at this intersection, or if not accidents, near misses. And I guess I've talked about it before where, when we're talking to residents that have had their, car broken into for whatever reason, if they allowed it, if they left it unlocked and they had things stolen, a lot of people don't report. Near misses and fender benders are probably also something that are not reported. We have a fantastic crossing guard, Lynn Coughlin, at that intersection. Is there opportunities like this where you reach out to crossing guards, or is there any education pieces at least on trying to get the word out to get more people reporting incidents like this, even if they're minor in nature. There's still reportings on them so that we are able to collect data.
Absolutely, Councillor. And as I mentioned in my delegation, Chief Nishan Diriapa, following the 2020 tragic year, redeployed 8 officers. And with that redeployment, we rejuvenated, we reimagined the Road Watch program as an opportunity to receive those complaints from the community. And Constable Claudia Wells is the Road Watch coordinator. We have branded the Road Watch program in our region through social media and media, of course, but that would be the best avenue for your constituents to come forward and put in a Road Watch complaint. It'll be triaged accordingly by Constable Wells and forwarded to the officers to deploy. As I mentioned earlier, we're a data-driven, evidence-based unit, and we do deploy based on the crime analyst's quarterly report. However, 1 officer per platoon is also assigned to be a Road Watch officer, and what that means is the Road Watch officer, for the duration of his or her shift, will be responsible for those citizen community complaints.
Thank you, Inspector Danos. And I guess until the event, the crystal ball, that we're able to see all in the future and know everything, data is what we have, and data is what we use. And I appreciate again you coming in here. I'd like to talk about the motion. So the Brampton Community Safety Advisory Committee, they requested for it to be deferred to council if the mover of the motion feels that there's not enough time for that to go back to the for the committee. I'm happy to support this going forward with 2 minor amendments. One amendment be that we still take into account the Brampton Community Safety Advisory Committee's comments on the committee and see what they have to say about, in terms of the terms of reference. And I know that they're looking at the Brampton Community Safety Advisory Committee's terms of reference as a whole at that upcoming meeting as well. So if that's an opportunity to do that, at least take in their comments. And then I'd also like to delete November 2022. I don't think that, I think leaving this as to begin for the new term of council is enough. I think you putting a date November 2022 is almost setting it up for failure for the start time. And maybe the mover of the motion would consider prior to the end of 2022. I think just putting that month in it when you're just coming out of an election, budget is being looked at. There's a lot of things that are going on with inauguration and even new changes this term or next term for adding more regional councillors also. So if there's just that opportunity not to put the actual month, maybe just leave it for the new term of council in 2022. So maybe we just delete November. So those are my minor amendments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Medeiros.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Williams. I think you've really, there's a gap in, having this type of committee which allows us to bring residents together and identify and have wholesome discussions really about in terms of improving road safety. And I know, as I said on the Police Services Board, that's always been having the opportunity to hear some of the delegations from the Mississauga Committee and some of the information that's coming through there. It was great that you've put this forward in addressing a gap, and really happy to support your motion. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Dillon.
I'm not on, Mayor Brown.
Okay, so we have the motion before us. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by all of council.
Mayor Brown, I was just going to speak to the amendments, just to say I fully accept those amendments. And that's the reason why I wanted to move this now, so that any terms of reference and any information can come back to the 23rd meeting for our Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee to be able to give input. So I fully accept those amendments to the motion. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the
Can we
motion
get a
carries.
recorded, sorry, can we get a recorded vote, please?
Sure.
Recorded vote has been requested on the motion, as shown on the screen, moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by all members of council. All in favor or opposed, please indicate. Councillor Dillon.
Favor.
Sorry, Councillor Dillon, was that in favor? Councillor Dillon?
Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Yes, it's a yes.
Thank you. Councillor Singh? Yes. It's a yes. Councillor Fortini?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros?
Yes.
That's a yes. Councillor Bowman?
Yes.
That's a yes. Councillor Paleshi?
Yes.
Councillor Willens?
Yes.
Councillor Visante?
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Santos?
Yes.
It's a yes. Mayor Brown?
Yes.
It's a yes. The motion carries unanimously, 11-0.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Brown and council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, 7.3. Brampton Fashion Week. This is delegation from Shiraz Shah and her friend Siddiqui, founder Brampton Fashion Week grant and venue. The delegation from Shiraz Shah and her friend Siddiqui, founder Brampton Council Week. So are they have a delegation now?
Ifran, it's Peter Fay. You are in the session now, so you can turn on your mic and turn on your video if you so choose, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council, and we have your presentation on the screen.
Perfect. Good morning. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Good morning, council and everyone. I hope everyone's doing great today. Thank you for having me on the delegation today. Unfortunately, my colleague Shiraz Shah could not make it to the presentation, but we're here representing Brampton Fashion Week, and I am one of the managing directors of Brampton Fashion Week. So we can start off with a quick presentation on what Brampton Fashion Week is. Basically, Brampton Fashion Week is a one-of-a-kind, and if I may, the first of its kind red carpet event in the city of Brampton, with the focus of promoting our local fashion industry and Canadian talent, and of course celebrating different colors, cultures, and customs of the fashion world. And we take great pride in saying that we are a BIPOC organization. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. And again, as I said, we take great pride in considering ourselves as a mosaic and diverse, friendly organization, and it's great to be acknowledged by the mayor, the Honorable Mayor Patrick Brown, where you can see the quote. I read, "Brampton is a mosaic of cultures and people, and one thing that we have in common is that we're all proud of our ancestry, proud of our heritage, and fashion is a great way to showcase that." One of the most beautiful things about Brampton Fashion Week is that it brings people together from every background to celebrate fashion. So it means a lot to the city because it is in our DNA to celebrate our culture, and it's one of the reasons why I love this event. And we always thank you, Honorable Mayor Brown, for supporting us. Next slide, please. And if I may introduce one of our advisory board, and our first one is Shazad Shah, who is a very reputable business leader in GTA, and we're honored to have him on board. Next slide, please. And of course, we also have Mr. Aaron Hopkins as our second advisory board member, who has an experience of delivering political campaigns and public relation profiles for more than 10 years. Next slide, please. So Brampton Fashion Week, we launched in 2018, and we held our first event at the Sheridan College in Brampton in June of 2018, where we showcased 9 designers and about 40 models for all from various backgrounds and different fashion styles. And in the next slide, we can see a few glimpses of the event. And being our first event, it was an in-person fashion runway where we attracted about 250 people in person audience. Next slide, please. And continuing the momentum, we continued in 2019 and officially launched our first full fashion week at the City Hall. Next, please. And as part of the Fashion Week, we had multiple days where we held workshops and seminars where our participating models as well as general public could register and be part of the Fashion Week and learn different aspects of fashion, including fashion art and Fashion Next, which we'll talk more about later in the presentation. Next, please. And Brampton Fashion Week 2019, we featured 13 designers and over 60 models who participated from all over GTA, of course, representing different fashion styles and backgrounds and cultures. Next slide, please. And here are some glimpses of Brampton Fashion Week 2019. We attracted more than 500 people in audience, and it was held at the soccer center here in Brampton. The next slide, please. Moving forward, trying to keep the momentum going. Unfortunately, like the rest of the world, we were all hit with the pandemic, and which kind of left a big void in the in-person events. So, just to keep going and keep continuing to create a platform, we Brampton Fashion Week, we went virtual. Next slide.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Oh, no, it's just trying to... so next slide after every... sorry. Sorry. Can we go to the previous slide? All right, so basically to continue providing Brampton Fashion Week, we can try to continue providing a platform for local talents and businesses to expand their horizons virtually and sustain through the pandemic. Because I know everyone got hit, so we successfully showcased 5 designers in our first virtual showcase. And next slide, please. And here are some glimpses of our clips from our virtual event that we did in 2020. Next slide. And basically, Brampton Fashion Week 2020 gave us a hope that we can continue to make our impact in the industry despite the pandemic and provide a platform to help Brampton be represented on the fashion map. Next slide, please. And therefore, we're continuing with 2021. We came back with more confidence and a bigger mission and goal to reach the largest audience in any virtual fashion showcase has ever seen. And we take great pride in saying that we did. And I'll explain that in a few slides. Next slide, please. And our goal is always to promote the city of Brampton. So in 2021, we decided to showcase Brampton Fashion Week throughout the city, highlighting local landmarks and tourist locations with our local fashion designers. Next slide, please. And here are some glimpses of our photo shoots and at different locations in Brampton, starting, of course, from the city hall and moving in all four directions to different locations. And trying to attract and create tourism for the city of Brampton. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, we take great pride in accomplishing our goals, and Brand Fashion Week made its mark in being the largest fashion show throughout Canada in 2021, with attracting an audience of more than 21,000 viewers for 2021 virtual fashion showcase. Next slide, please. And for 2022 Brand Fashion Week, we are seeking to grow the momentum even larger as we created in 2021 virtually, and we look forward to coming back to an in-person event where we can attract local businesses and designers and talents, and of course media and fashion professionals from all over Canada to come to Brampton and showcase their art. Next slide, please. And again, as just a few months away, where we plan to showcase the event for this year. Brampton Fashion Week, we look forward to a much larger event and a much larger showcase, and with more, much bigger platform for the local business and local talents to showcase their work and products. Slide, please. All right, so here's a quick rundown on the proposed schedule that we have for Brampton Fashion Week 2022. Our first day, we always start with the media launch and the opening party. Continued to day 2 with our fashion workshops and seminars called Fashion Art. Then we get into the third day with health and beauty, and day 4 is Fashion Next, and of course our final day is our runway show and our red carpet gala. Next slide, please. Yeah, so day 1 is our media launch, where the media will have an opportunity. We'll have the opportunity to for all the mainstream media and fashion bloggers, editors, reporters, journalists to network and mingle with the Brampton Fashion Week team, dignitaries, designers, sponsors, and models, and basically take out our message throughout their network, their respective networks throughout GTA and abroad. Next slide, please. And and then starting from day 2, we get into our workshops, where we put together a great opportunity for participating hairstylists and makeup artists to showcase their fashion forward art, creativity in the form of hairstyling and makeover. It's a great way for emerging talents to learn and connect with industry professionals. Next slide, please. And we get into health and beauty on day 3, where we have our models, our participating models especially, who connect with industry professionals specializing in health and beauty, and where they learn essential knowledge to improve their health and fitness. And it's a great opportunity for models to maintain their a healthy lifestyle. Next slide, please. And day 4, we're going to Fashion Next, where models connect with fashion designers, photographers, and stylists, where it becomes a great opportunity for all participating fashion professionals and emerging talents to learn and collaborate with each other, and basically the models especially get to learn from the experts and professionals of the fashion industry and become runway ready. And especially a lot of students get involved in our Fashion Next program, where they join and learn and connect with a lot of industry professionals. And next slide, please. And of course, our final day, day 5, is our red carpet runway show and gala, which concludes the series of Brampton Fashion Week 2022, and where we showcase all the designers on the runway, and attendees include our dignitaries and fashion industry professional celebrities from all over Canada. And of course, there's always exclusive media coverage that's always provided. And next. And thank you very much. That is our plan for Brampton Fashion Week 2022, a little bit about what we do. I'm open to any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Our first speaker is the Councillor Dillon, who held this discussion item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shiraz, just thank you for coming. What's your ask?
So basically, this year we trying to come back to in-person events, and we applied for the government grants provided, but we were unable to receive those. So as we were coming out of the pandemic, it is a little hard to bring together sponsors for an event, and we would like to continue with the event and to keep providing that platform. So what we are asking today is that we need some guidance and help from the city of Brampton, especially in terms of one of our biggest costs for this event is the venue. So we're seeking help with the venue location to be held at the city hall and one of the big rooms that we have.
Right, and so how many years did you receive the funding previously?
I believe it was 2 years.
Right, and so when Shiraz had informed me that you guys didn't get it previously, I was a little bit surprised, considering how successful Brampton Fashion Week was. I remember when back, I think it's 2018, or I believe when you guys had approached the city, we were able to assist you and get it off the ground. And I remember the first the year we had it, you had it, and it was quite successful, and I think it grew after that as well. And so I was a little bit surprised you were not able to get it. But what I want to do is I'll let if there's other speakers on the board, we'll let them speak to it. But what I want to do is refer this back to staff and see if there's a way that the city can assist them, whether it's with a venue or it's any other way to at least have this go forward this year. I know that you typically, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, staff can correct me, we usually give up to max 3 years for grants to get a lot of these initiatives off the ground. Yes. We did have, we did go through COVID, and it was a tough time for everybody. And so one thing I've seen with Brampton Fashion Week is that it really lets people see our diversity. It really brings out the amazing talent we have, and it's such an international flair to it as well. I saw saris, I've seen like Punjabi suits there. I've seen some Muslim girls with the hijab on, and the fashion looks phenomenal, and then some of these designers are amazing. And so I would think we need to figure out a way to see if we can support you for this year, and how we, obviously next year we can have more discussions. But I think coming out of the pandemic, it might be something great for us to get everybody back, and really highlighting all the talent that we do have. And so I'll move a referral back to staff that they work with Irfan and Shiraz. But if there's other speakers, we'll let them go ahead first. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Dillon, I don't see other speakers, but I'd be happy to speak to this. I've attended this event before. I thought it was a massive turnout at the soccer center. I was very impressed, and I saw what the Toronto Fashion Week has been able to produce. It's become an economic driver for Toronto, and I thought it really showcased in a way that other fashion weeks don't the cultural talent that exists in Brampton in terms of design. And so when Councillor Dillon spoke to that, I fully echo his comments. I guess my question is to the speaker, what timelines are you on?
So we initially wanted to hold the entire event in first or second week of June, but again, because of the we weren't able to secure a venue, we were looking into mid to end of July.
Okay, so time is your enemy right now.
Yes.
What level were they asking to be included in?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they were applying for the Amplify round, which is up to $25,000 in matching funding.
Okay. Matching funding?
Yes.
So it means they contribute, then the city matches it?
Exactly, yes.
Well, Councillor Dillon, maybe given the time, we've done this once before with an event 2 months ago. If council is agreeable, I'd be comfortable just saying we add them to the list. Given the fact that this event's coming up very soon.
Sorry, are you asking me, Mayor?
Would that be a friendly amendment?
I'm open to that. I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to second or move that, whatever the preference is, and I do believe this is a great event for the city.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm glad, I'm open for you to seconding that, and I think it's a great idea. But just a question on the process, would, to the clerk, I guess, because this is a delegation, how would we move forward with that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, this was a delegation that was added to the Committee of Council meeting last week, and there was a companion discussion item. Both items were referred to council today, along with your discussion item 13.3. So it is a legitimate item on the agenda that council can either refer to staff or, as the mayor is suggesting, pass an action-oriented motion now, if that's the desire of council.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Just in terms of the details, so we could add them to the list as Mayor Brown had mentioned. Just in terms of like the details, like how would we work that out for council's information on what on how much they would receive, etc., and all that.
Maybe Kelly could speak to that.
Sure, through the mayor. The Advanced Brampton Fund was open from September to November, so it's been closed for a few months now. The fund has been depleted. We did not have sufficient funding to allocate funding to all the organizations that did apply. The Advanced Brampton Fund has only a $600,000 annual operating budget. We received over $1 million in grant requests. However, Brampton Fashion Week was one of almost 24 in the Amplify category, and only 8 of those projects could be funded with the budget that we have allocated.
So could we look into in-kind? For example, I think slipping my mind, the City Hall, the Rose Atrium, I believe, what's it called in the West Tower?
Through the mayor, the conservatory?
Conservatory, yeah, something like that. We're able to provide them in kind, or any other type of facilities that they may wish.
That's a good point, Councillor Dillon. I think their major cost is the rental cost of the city facility, and so if we could get some help here, we're trying to help this delegation that has a great event in the city. If we want to help them, and I think what Councillor Dillon's saying is that we provide their request in kind, how would we wordsmith the motion to do so?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, my advice will be that we stand this item down so a proper motion can be created and move on to the next delegation because council will be making a decision presumably on this. It sounds like it's two requests. One is in kind, whether it's use of a city venue of some sort, and the second seems to be funding, and we need to identify what exactly is the funding and where it would come from.
So I think what Councillor Dillon is suggesting is instead of funding, that the venue be provided in kind. As a way to achieve the aim this year, and then hopefully next year we get back on track with them. But could the wording simply be that the venue be provided in kind to Brampton Fashion Week?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it could. I guess the question would be which venue are we talking about? Like, just to be clear, I know the conservatory has been discussed, but there are other venues, so I think council should be specific.
Yes, so to Irfan, the request is the conservatory?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the venue that we had in mind.
So I don't want to overcomplicate this. I think the motion could be moved by Councillor Dillon, seconded by myself, that an in-kind venue provision of the conservatory at City Hall be provided to assist this year. So referral wouldn't be necessary. Oh, I see another speaker. Councillor Paleshi, then Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you not wanting to overcomplicate things. I don't know if the conservatory is big enough. If Brampton Fashion Week feel that it is big enough, then I'll step back and say, okay, it's to you. The other question that I have for staff, this council supported a motion not too long ago to have anybody that was approved for funding in prior years to COVID would automatically be approved for funding this year. Now that may not have been for, is it the Advanced Brampton Fund? It may have been for some of the other events like Brampton Money Lacrosse is fully the event. There's a number of other events, but I kind of assumed at the time that when we moved a motion like that, it was all encompassing. Can I have staff comment on that?
Yes, through the mayor, that wouldn't have been for Advanced Brampton Fund. That was likely related to the marquee festivals and events as well as the sport tourism. Because the Advanced Brampton Fund was opened and closed in November of last year, all of the announcements and updated information was provided to applicants early in January of this year, and we haven't had any further requests for consideration. So this is the first time we're having discussion about the Advanced Brampton Fund.
Sure, thanks, Kelly. Kelly, the money that's in the Advanced Brampton Fund, did that come from the previous year where there wasn't any events? And did council add more dollars to that fund through this year's budget?
Through the chair, no, it is an annual operating budget. It has not been increased. The money has been allocated in 2020 for a series of virtual events, which were quite successful, and the delegate today has spoken of that virtual event, which was supported in 2020. 2021 and 2022, the budgets were depleted and allocated in full. Any money that does remain from the Advanced Brampton Fund unused does get returned to Reserve 16 for future consideration for the marquee and sport tourism funding.
Oh, so through COVID, any, how much do we know how much funding was returned to that reserve?
Through the chair, I don't have that information offhand. However, we did have quite a successful virtual programming year for Advanced Brampton Fund, so it would be minimal.
Okay, maybe that's something that we can look at in the future. I guess I don't know how many virtual events there were in terms of, to me, virtual events would be a lot cheaper than the actual events, but maybe that's something that we can look at in the future. And I'm happy to support, maybe if we stand this down and Councillor Dillon and the mayor can come up with something to bring it back. But then just back to the delegate, is the conservatory, do you feel that it's big enough for you?
Yes, it is actually, because it's not a public event. So the audience that we have in person is by invite, and we always make sure that we stay within the bounds of the limitations of how many people we can invite, and of course, keeping in mind the pandemic restrictions of social distancing. We will be consulting with the city in the numbers that we have, and then we will invite audience accordingly. And we are also proposing that since the last 2 years we did a virtual event, that we do also turn this event into a hybrid event. So while we have people in person at the city hall attending, we also have an audience virtually that can view the event simultaneously.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Brown.
Councillor Singh.
Good, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so we have the motion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll just bring it up on the screen momentarily. And it's seconded by Mayor Brown, I believe. Yes.
Okay, is there anyone opposed to the motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. This takes us to our next item, which is Yuri Palachuk, who's a parishioner from the Cemetery Board member of St. Elias Ukrainian Catholic Church. Committee of Council Recommendation, Ukrainian Heritage Day, September 7th, 2022. Welcome, Yuri.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yuri Palachuk. My family and I are parishioners of St. Elias Ukrainian Catholic Church in Brampton. My wife, Hazel, and I are first-generation Ukrainian Canadians. We love Canada to death, but we are also fiercely proud of our Ukrainian heritage. Our parents endured the terrible, godless yoke of communism during the Soviet Union, the forced famine, or Holodomor, in the early to mid-1930s, commemorated just yesterday, in fact, as it is each year, and the ravages and the great displacement of World War II. They eventually ended up in Canada, eking out a better life for themselves and their children. They instilled in us a belief that in order to know where we are going, we must know where we come from. A belief that we have passed on to our children. This also includes a belief in democracy, the freedom of thought, speech, expression, religion, and human rights. Democracy has been rattling the cages of many a dictator over the years because it threatens their desire to gain and remain in power and lord over their citizens. It is just such a dictator that, because of his perverted sense of history and other issues, has chosen to rain atrocities, death, and destruction on a nation that has only ever wanted to be left alone, to be free, independent, and sovereign. Ukraine has done nothing to deserve this evil. The fact is, almost from the first appearance of humankind in the land that is now Ukraine, the population there has always been diverse, individual, yet collaborative and democratic, long before Russia was even a twinkle in anyone's eye. I guarantee you that Ukraine is fighting not only for its own life, but for that of all of Europe and the entire world order. Councillor Medeiros, Mayor Brown, and the City Council of Brampton, on behalf of St. Elias Parish, its pastor, Father Roman Galadza, and the greater Ukrainian community of Brampton, we are most grateful, honored, and humbled that you have declared September 7th Ukrainian Heritage Day. We very much look forward to sharing our heritage with the citizens of Brampton. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Palachuk, for coming here today. And really, I think no words can really express what is happening in the Ukraine and the impact on the local Ukrainian community. So I think this is just a real small gesture for us, especially when a genocide is happening, that we in Brampton, we embrace and celebrate the Ukrainian culture. And I thank you very much for delegating today, and certainly this council has always been very steadfast in recognizing Mayor Brown's leadership on this issue. You know, we look forward to the date, and hopefully, who knows, by then there might be reasons for real celebration. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Yuri. I'm going to suggest that we have this motion seconded by all of council to show our unity and solidarity with the Ukrainian community, and please send our best to Father Roman.
Thank you.
There's a lot of love for the community here in Brampton.
Thank you so much. God bless you, folks.
So moved by Councilor Badiro, seconded by all of council. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
So, Mr. Mayor, the next delegation is 7.5. This was the delegation from DeWitt Lee regarding notice of motion 15.1. DeWitt, we're bringing you into the session now, and you can unmute your mic and turn on your camera if you wish to address council. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'd like to take, first of all, extend greetings and gratitude to all of the members of Brampton City Council, Mr. Mayor Patrick Brown, for this opportunity to speak regarding this motion. I must give an extra special thanks to Councilor Williams and her team, who worked tirelessly with me to prepare and present this motion today. As someone who has spent many years of my life living in Brampton as a child and an adult, it is an amazing privilege to present and be present with you today. Emancipation Month, founded in Canada, is a month-long commemoration of the anti-slave bill, which was passed by the British in 1833. This freed people of African descent from slavery across the Caribbean, Canada, and the UK. Many of our impacted countries whose descendants have found a home here in Canada celebrate this monumental moment on different days in August, and the month has served us well in working to unify us all. This is not just a time for celebration, but to continue the slow and painful healing process started first with the Afro-Caribbean and Black communities, and then with those who we share this land with. As founder of Emancipation Month, I am proud to say that over the past years, it has been officially recognized in municipalities such as Brampton, Toronto, Burlington, and many other cities for several years. And it has just passed into law in Ontario legislature in December last year, and it has been a goal for us to establish an Emancipation Park in Canada. There are only a handful of parks with this special designation in the world, and one of them is located right in Brampton, which gives me an unexplainable joy. Our goal is to create 20 more of these parks around the world with an Emancipation Park Ranger program for youth, economic, art, and health programs, which will help raise up communities of Afro-Caribbean descent around the world and give them places that serve as a symbol of their contribution. The journey of establishing this park in Brampton started in 2018, when Brampton's current mayor graciously met with Peter Lopez and myself, the co-founders of the Black voter base. It was at that time where we introduced a plan for Black equity and inclusion in Brampton. Emancipation Park was one of these pillars of the plan, and thanks to Councillor Charmaine Williams, who bravely presented it to council, it became a reality. And thanks, of course, to the full support from her colleagues on council. May I add that it also happened during one of the most trying and divided times in racial history, and it provided a loud and clear statement that Brampton City Council believes that Black lives matter. The concept of Emancipation Park goes beyond just the renaming, but to the continuous cultivation of a space of identity, inclusion, and inspiration to Afro-Caribbean Canadians and all those who have suffered oppression. The flag that we humbly request to have its own permanent flagpole is over 100 years old and provides people of African descent from all over the world one flag that tells our story of struggle, sacrifice, and survival. It was founded in August of 1920 by the UNIA-ACL, led by the Honorable Marcus Garvey. The flag's purpose is to give everyone of African descent, many who were displaced from Africa and placed all around the world with the transatlantic slave trade, a connection back to the motherland and an opportunity to rediscover our identity and our connection to one another, which was stripped from us. And if I may borrow a line from my brother in Christ from the Ukrainian Catholic Church, our children must know where they come from, and this flag provides a constant reminder of who and what they truly are. I would like to also take this moment to thank the City of Brampton for providing us the honor to raise this flag at City Hall during Emancipation Month in August and during Black History Month. I am proud to be among the Garveyites of the UNIA-ACL to be the first to raise this flag in Brampton. We have many days of significance where this flag should be raised, such as Black History Month, Emancipation Day, and now the UN has recognized August 31st as the International Day of People of African Descent. So by having a permanent place where the flag is up, this will provide us with a place to celebrate these days of significance without having to worry about the restrictions of only being able to raise the flag once a year. This permanent flagpole will also give the visitors of the park a place of pride, hope, and ultimately a renewed appreciation for the city of Brampton for its inclusion and leadership towards ending towards Black racism. It would also be a symbol of respect to the contributions of people of African descent from all over the world who, in the face of hate, prejudice, and violence, much of such which is without debate, still has lingering impacts in our systems of society. And this would be a fitting tribute to the peacekeepers who walked in a godly and loving manner in the face of evil. We know that Canada was a place of refuge for my ancestors who were enslaved during the time in the U.S., and by having a permanent flagpole for the red, black, and green flag would be fitting, since this is a place where freedom seekers sought out and conductors of the Underground Railroad, such as Harriet Tubman, called heaven. It would also be a dream come true for so many of our elders who have suffered prejudice and horrible treatment here in Canada, but remain steadfast, loving, and committed to making Canada a place where we are respected and celebrated, and not just tolerated. That has, of course, paved the way for so many other people who have now called Canada home, where we have pushed against the prejudice and provided a much more tolerable and loving society. We would like to give this gift to those freedom fighters from across Canada to honor and have the privilege of witnessing this permanent flag being placed at Emancipation Park. I'd like to also credit Councillor Charmaine Williams for her selection of the sports park during her motion as being the home of the only Emancipation Park in Canada, something that you all should be very proud of. You know, sports is an activity that connects our communities and provides the perfect place to address the existing racial biases towards people of African descent, which is experienced from people of all cultures. The games of cricket and soccer/football are global games and provides a common place where people of all walks of life can congregate, compete, and become a stronger community. Peter Lopez and myself have organized an international committee working on hosting the Emancipation Cup in Brampton this year in the beginning of August, which will bring the people together for a series of soccer/football games involving amateur and professional players. We have already received interest from some of the most successful teams from Africa and the Caribbean who would like to travel to Brampton to participate. This will, of course, draw people in from across the world and give Brampton an opportunity to host this international sporting event that would put the city of Brampton on the world stage. Our hopes is to have this flagpole, our flagpoles, up and ready for the Emancipation Cup this year and incorporate the first ever flag raising in our opening ceremony with all of the Brampton City Council members present. Lastly, this being the tail end of the UN declared International Decade of People of African Descent, we will make a bold statement to the global community that Bramptonians are true change agents and that this city is a true beacon of inclusion and equity. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Dewitt, for that passionate presentation. I believe there's going to be a motion put forward by Councillor Williams, seconded by myself, and I believe that there is funding within the community services budget that we can achieve this without having to reference any reserve account. And I think it's a beautiful idea. I have to step out for a moment, and Councilor Medeiros is going to step into the chair. I think this is a beautiful idea, and thank you, DeWitt, once again for your leadership on this. And over to Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, or Deputy Mayor Medeiros. Thanks to it for coming in and delegating on this. I know the community is very passionate about seeing flagpoles raised flagpoles at Emancipation Park. So I don't have any questions for you, DeWitt, but I am just going to jump into the motion. It was a notice of motion for all of council to review. And I will just jump into it. Whereas Brampton City Council unanimously passed a motion to rename Dixie 407 Sports Park to Emancipation Park in honor of the abolition of slavery, acknowledging the past and reiterate a position of solidarity with Brampton's Black community. Whereas the Pan-African red, black, and green is over 100 years old and represents everyone from African diaspora and anyone who identifies with being of African descent. Whereas Brampton is home to Emancipation Park, part of a network of only 4 Emancipation Parks globally, and a permanent flagpole would represent the significance and identity of the space. Whereas Emancipation Park is part of the Emancipation Month strategy to create spaces across Canada that will tell the incredible and heroic story of freedom and the constant pursuit to eliminate racism everywhere. Whereas August 1st is Emancipation Day and August is Emancipation Month in Brampton, and during this month there are numerous occasions that the Pan-African flag should be raised during celebrations and observation in the space of Emancipation Park. Whereas the City of Brampton has hosts and has approved a number of monuments and structures recognizing the historic events impacting residents of various faiths and community groups, choosing to make Brampton their home. Whereas Emancipation Park Committee is planning an Emancipation Cup soccer tournament in summer of 2022 featuring teams from across Canada, and it would be appropriate to have a flag raised during the beginning of the event to commemorate justice, freedom, and equality. Therefore, be it resolved that staff investigate the feasibility of installing a permanent flagpole in Emancipation Park, including the potential to require additional flagpoles to accommodate the Canadian provincial and municipal flags according to the proper flagpole etiquette, and that the report returns to council in a time frame that would allow for the installation of the flagpoles for Emancipation Month in August 2022 in Emancipation Cup soccer tournament scheduled to take place in the summer of 2022, and that date is to be confirmed. So that is the motion on the floor. Now, I know there might be room in the budget, but I was looking at the flagpole at Kenwillen Square, and it says it's sponsored by Carabram, and I'm wondering if staff can also look at opportunities for sponsorships once we get back the cost and the feasibility of having the flagpoles raised, installed at Emancipation Park. And I know we could start with 1 and then proceed to 3 as time allows and as our budgets allow. But we have to get that back from staff to let us know the feasibility. So that is the motion on the floor, and I look forward to everyone supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pellecci.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. DeWitt, I have to say that was an unbelievable delegation. That was it was inspiring, your passion to delegate before us. We're not too often that we hear somebody with such conviction, and you had soul in your speech, and I loved every minute. I was hanging word for word. No particular questions for you, unless you want to chime into some of my comments that I do have to make. One of my comments to staff, probably to Peter, I believe, what is the flagpole etiquette for placing this flag at the Emancipation Park?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'll defer to the protocol office, as they're responsible now for the flag policy that council adopted in early 2019, I believe. And staff are coming to the podium.
Okay.
Through the chair, wherever we have a flag raised, we are required to have the Canadian and Ontario flag as well. So we'll have to ensure that through this motion, through our report back to council, that we have that it's going to be about for 4 flags, not just the one.
Okay, and is it? I think I've always known that there's a height requirement. The Canadian flag needs to fly the highest. I believe. I don't know if that's just a rumor or not, but is that actual as well?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, is there anything that talks about, I guess, the way these flags would be set up if the Emancipation flag was to be center of any types of flags? Could that happen? Where if the Canadian flag was flying higher, but the Emancipation flag could be in a more central location with more focus?
It would have to go in order of procession.
Okay. Another question that I have, and we're talking about costs. Flagpoles to me don't seem to really cost much. Is there anybody on staff that could tell us how much a flagpole costs? Roughly?
Through the chair, it's approximately 5,000 per pole.
Approximately 5,000 per pole, okay. So with this motion, this isn't going to be coming back to say, you know, we couldn't find any dollars or anything in our budgets or anything like that. Like this is telling staff to go figure out the dollars and put these flagpoles in place, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. The other question that I have is, and I love the fact that, you know, this is being placed, but I would also like to have further discussion in the future to have something else at Emancipation Park, like stories being told around the park at certain areas. It's not just one central location where there's a flag, but maybe other opportunities for, you know, the entranceway or any walking trails that happen to be like walking areas that when walking to certain sports fields, that we're also telling a story, and whether that story be of anything that we want to get out to the public, or even any particular art displays or anything else that highlights Emancipation Park as a whole, I think is beneficial to not only the park, but the city of Brampton, the community as well. Is that something that we could have a further dialogue on? Maybe if I can ask the mover of the motion to, maybe, I don't know if I necessarily need an amendment, but a future discussion about the park as a whole to highlight more of the story with that reflects Emancipation Day.
If I may interject, just let me know when it's appropriate.
Please do it.
Thank you very much. I'd like to just say that is part of the Emancipation Month strategy. You know, parks provide a place for communities to gather, and you know that is one of the roles of the Emancipation Park Rangers, for them to actually produce different tours and different on special days of significance. And I believe once, you know, we truly invite the community to utilize this space to do the storytelling. There are so many stories of emancipation. There's so many stories of victory from, you know, countries all across Africa and the Caribbean islands, that we hope that all of these, you know, members of the African diaspora, that they adopt Emancipation Park as a place where they tell their stories. So it is definitely part of our strategy to ensure that, you know, that more than the flag is present, but that the people are present, and that we take a sense of responsibility for the park, even for cleaning the park. And that's another job for the Emancipation Park Rangers, is to make sure that there's ownership. And that's what a flag represents. It represents ownership. And we are not going to be, you know, vacant, you know, landlords. We are going to be ever present, and we want to make sure that, you know, on a weekly basis, that families can plan these educational, fun journeys through Emancipation Park, telling the story. I know the co-founder of Black Voter Base, my partner, Mr. Peter Lopez, is very, very committed to ensuring that the legacy of the late, great Harriet Tubman finds a way and finds a home in Emancipation Park through a statue of some stature. She is, of course, recognized as an honorary Canadian, and she spent her glory days in St. Catharines. So to be able to, connect us to her St. Catherine legacy and family to Brampton, I think would be a great way to make it a cultural destination and not just a sports one.
No, that's excellent, and I appreciate that. And maybe what I'll ask then is that yourself and the Emancipation Park Rangers work with staff to identify areas within Emancipation Park to be able to house whatever features or stories or anything that can provide more of a focus on Emancipation Park in the time to come. And if that's something that the community can get behind, and just staff at least provide you with the areas that we can safely go in and make sure that there's, I don't know what's in the ground, if there's water mains or anything like that, but anything that can that are areas that we can say this can go here, something can go here. If that helps with the park rangers and your committee, then I think that's a benefit.
That would help, and I would also like to add some kind of lavatory.
Absolutely.
That is, as we invite the community in, we want to make sure that those basic needs and necessities are taken care of.
So I think we're looking at porta potties right now. Lots of opportunity for us to put porta potties in Emancipation Park now, and maybe in the future budget we can look at something that's a little bit more permanent. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Thanks again for your delegation.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the board for coming in, and I think this is an important part, an important way to really commemorate Canadian history and understand. It's an opportunity for all of our residents to understand the plight of the Black people and what they went through and what their journey is. And so I just want to say thank you. To kind of piggyback off Councillor Paleshi, in 2019, when we had Komagata Park named, there were signboards there that talks about the history of Komagata, the ship that came in 1914, which was turned back due to the racist laws of that time. And the ship went back, and unfortunately a number of those people were killed when they got back to India by the British. And so there's a signboard speaking about the history, what happened, and the importance of it. And so I think, just for staff and, for everybody else, members of council as well, it may be important to have those types of signboards up there. So just wanted to give that suggestion. Thank you.
If I may respond, please. I do want to say that, with cricket and football and soccer being global sports, especially celebrated in the Caribbean and in India, it does, this Emancipation Park creates an incredible place for unity and discussion. It was the British oppression that didn't just cover, the African countries and continent, but also extended to, our Asian brothers and sisters, in India and especially Sri Lanka. So we always, as we tell the story of being emancipated, we always talk about, the fact that Sri Lanka was still actually under colonial rule after the anti-slavery bill was passed. So the story goes deeper than just how the British impacted people of African descent. it carries over to our brothers and sisters around the globe. And, we hope to be able to join you in that park there, Brother Singh, and invite you over to Emancipation Park and really build fellowship and community the way we should.
Right, and I appreciate though the invite. Will definitely come out, and just to add on to what you said, under British rule, colonization, there was just a lot of people don't know, but in India and the Bengal area, up to in about 100-year time frame, there's reports up to 60 million people died of just a famine alone. And that's because they were not allowed to grow food on their own farmland. They had to grow poppy for the British to sell. And so it's a story that resonates across different continents, different countries. And again, I really agree with what you said. It's an opportunity for everybody to come together and and to unify everybody and to build some bridges that may not have existed before. So once again, thank you so much, brother, and I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think there's any more speakers. Councillor Williams.
Yes, thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. I really am excited by this conversation that's happening, and the comments mentioned by Councillor Dillon and you DeWitt, because, colonization is, we are significantly impacted by that over generations, and emancipation means freedom. So I see this park as a place of freedom for all those who've been impacted by colonization over the years. And I know that the city of Brampton is a city of immigrants and have been coming from countries of British rule. And so this park really is a symbol of freedom for all. And so I'm really excited that this is the direction and the conversation that's being had, because it's a necessary one here in the city of Brampton. Also, to Councillor Peleshi's amendment, I love the idea. I love that we are looking at being able to tell the story. And I know there was a conversation we had in council around monuments and seeing an opportunity for monuments to be placed at Emancipation Park that will tell the story and that will highlight the significance of the freedom fighters that traveled on the journey to seeing Canada be the place of refuge. So I fully support the amendment being on this motion. I just wonder if staff could come back, because I know we did move a motion to see hydro and water be run to the park, and I believe that is probably one of the deferred matters that is to come back eventually. And so it would be good for us to know where we're at with that, and the plans to see water and hydro being fitted for this park to allow for washrooms and allow for sound systems and other pieces of key infrastructure needed to make this park fully accessible and usable for all residents of the city of Brampton. So if that could just be on the staff's radar to bring us back information on that, that'd be great. But yeah, fully support the amendments, and I really am looking forward to how this park is going to build out to be a space for all Brantonians. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As I don't see any further speakers, was there a recorded vote called? No? Okay. Do you want to record?
Yes.
Councillor?
Yeah, that would be great. Why not? Why not? Thank you.
Okay, so a recorded vote moved by Councillor Williams and seconded by Mayor Brown. And I'll hand it over to you to City Clerk to administer it.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, just I think there's a tweak to the wording in red. I think it's going to say that staff also report on the potential use of areas of Emancipation Park for events and further recognition of community significance. Just to clarify that it may be used for events as well. All those in favor or opposed to the motion, please indicate. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon?
Can you hear me, Peter? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Singh? Yes. It's a yes. Councillor Fortini? It's a yes. Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Vicente.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
It's a yes. Chair Medeiros.
Yes.
It's a yes. The motion carries unanimously 10-0.
And Peter, it's Mayor Brown here. Please make sure I'm noted as voting for it as well.
That's a yes, so the motion carries unanimously 11-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is Government Relations Matter, and welcome Andrej, and from the Office of the CEO to present to us our Government Relations update.
To you, Mr. Chair, before Andre starts, I'd like to introduce a gentleman that we just recently hired, Chris Ethier. If Chris will stand up, he joins us as the new manager of Government Relations and Liaison. For the better part of the last decade, Chris has worked as a senior leader in senior leadership roles, including the Director and Chief of Staff in federal government. Through these positions, Chris has worked collaboratively with all levels of government. His experience in stakeholder relationships and creating project advocacy plans are some of the skills that he brings to the position of the City of Brampton. So Chris will be supporting Andres in his great work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of Council. Good morning. I'd like to start, through the Chair, I'd like to start today's presentation with an overview of Region of Peel. The next Regional Council meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 28th, and this week's agenda features Regional Council Policies and Procedures Committee, as well as Region of Peel Accessibility Advisory Committee meetings. Staff have reviewed committee agendas, and we've reached out to the department staff as required. Next slide, please. The Regional Council Policies and Procedures Committee agenda features several items, including item 5.1, Region of Peel Procedure Bylaw Amendments. For information, a report that implements the necessary amendments to the Region of Peel Procedure Bylaw following Council's decision regarding Regional Chair appointment. Regional Council passed the bylaw on December 9th, 2021 to change the composition of Regional Council as it relates to the appointment and term of office of the Regional Chair. At the time, Public Affairs team has flagged this to Council through our regular weekly update. Next slide, please. In Provincial Updates, yesterday the Metrolinx has awarded a contract to Modernize GO Rail network and bring more frequent all-day two-way service across the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The work includes laying additional track as well as electrification of over 600 kilometers of tracks. It also includes introduction of a new electric train fleet. Construction is expected to start in 2023 with incremental opportunities for added service starting in 2025-26. I would only comment that the GO expansion plan includes the electrification of the Kitchener-GO rail corridor between Union Station and Bramalea Station. The addition of a third track west of Bramalea Station may also fall under this program. All-day two-way GO service on the Kitchener line is a long-standing advocacy issue for the city, and staff will continue to work with Metrolinx and the Ministry of Transportation to advocate for improved and increased service for Brampton residents. Also, the Finance Minister has confirmed that the 2022 Ontario budget will be tabled next Thursday, April 28th. As it's been practiced, the Public Relations team will provide council members with the briefing note that will include highlights of the budget documents as well as the initial analysis. Also, Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022 has passed third reading and received royal assent last Thursday. Currently, there are still public consultations open for comments with the due date of April 29th. And this provides a nice transition to the next several slides that provide Council with an update on the contents of the bill that were requested from staff. Next slide, please. Bill 109 was introduced on March 30th, and at the time, staff provided council members with a briefing note that outlined the changes stemming from the bill. The bill amends several key pieces of legislation that govern the municipal sector. First of the proposed changes speaks to the approval of official plans, where minister may refer official plan amendments or new official plans to a tribunal for recommendation for minister to either approve or require official plans to be modified. I would only add that this may impact the regional official plan, and as a domino effect may have impacts on the timelines for the city official plan, as our official plan has to be in line with the regional official plan. Next slide, please. Next is the Community Infrastructure and Housing Accelerator, which is a new tool through which municipalities may submit requests to minister to speed up approvals for housing and community infrastructure. The accelerator would require consultation and public notice and would apply to certain types of developments. The new tool does not impact the existing zoning order powers that the minister currently enjoys. Next slide, please. On development-related charges, the bill contains requirements of municipalities to post annual financial reports for development-related charges, as well as report on how parkland dedication levies help to address municipal needs for parks. Also, the community benefit charge bylaws are to be reviewed every 5 years or risk expiration. The bill also commits to $19 million that are to help reduce backlogs at the Ontario Land Tribunal, as well as the Landlord and Tenant Board. Next slide, please. The bill also stipulates that the site plan control application fees and zoning bylaw amendment fees be gradually refunded if a decision is not made within the legislated timeline. The table on the slide in front of you does illustrate the timelines and extent of a refund. I would only point out that the refund would result in loss of revenue for municipalities, which may need to be recuperated through other means. Next slide, please. The remaining changes include proposed amendments to subdivision controls, non-resident speculation tax, which used to be 15%, now is being increased to 20% and expanded province-wide with effective date of March 30th, 2022, as well as improved consumer protection for purchasers of new homes. I would like to thank planning staff for pulling together the slides and their endless patience, as I would not exactly describe myself as a planner material. And the last slide in the presentation does provide a very quick update on federal developments. The federal government does continue its rollout of a 2022 federal budget, highlighting key initiatives and funding priorities. As part of that, we have had the Minister of Transport in the city to talk about the proposed $600+ million over 5 years to fund strengthen key supply chains. Also, the President of Treasury Board was in Brampton to highlight $13.75 million in federal funding for primarily Christian Fellowship residences. Funding comes through Rapid Housing Initiative, which through 2022 budget is receiving additional $1.5 billion over 2 years. And this is the last slide in the presentation. I will only remind members of council about the early bird registration rate for FCM's 2022 conference that is still in place until Friday, the 22nd of April. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Councillor Pellecci.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. So I guess some of the issues that I have that I'm just kind of hearing about with Bill 109, in particular, some of the refunds that will need to be provided. A lot of the monies that applicants put forward go towards the resources that staff need to put forward to work on the applications. So I would kind of like a better understanding of what these mean to staff and to the city as a whole. If these are going to be passed through, if there's an opportunity maybe for staff to take this portion away and come back at a future date with some of their comments. And then also I would like us to, if this bill is approved, and as is with the refund agreement here, I would like a standing item on the planning agenda to understand how many applicants have received 50% of that funding back, 75 and either 100% of the applications that they've put forward on all future applications that come to the city of Brampton as well. And I think that would be beneficial for planning committee as a whole to see applicants, if they have many applications that they're putting forward, to get a better understanding of how many applications that they've dealt with in the past that have received a portion or all of the refunds. So is that something that we can further discuss that once if the bill is finalized? But then just my question to staff, if you can report back at a future date on what these items essentially mean for staff and for the city of Brampton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may, Councillor Palashi, I think you're bringing up very good points. So I can assure you a few things here. We already have started setting up a team, a corporate team, with representation from different staff, from different departments, because we need, it's not just a planning issue, this is a municipality issue that includes obviously council staff and the staff from different departments, including finance, clerks, legal, and so on. Like every other piece of legislation that comes, there is obviously the legislation itself, the act and the changes to the act, but also the regulations. And the devil is usually in the details. And we will be obviously consulting and communicating with our counterparts at the staff at the province, but also with other municipalities as well. In terms of the changes, Councillor, those changes are not going to be in effect until January 1st of 2022. However, I think the point you're bringing is very good, and which is always data is very important, and the planning department, building departments, and lots of other departments are very good at collecting data, and we will be obviously increasing the area of data collection to include some of the information that came as a result of that piece of legislation, and absolutely we will be reporting on a regular basis. But the change for that particular item won't come until next year.
And thank you, and I appreciate that. And I guess the one, I don't know if this is a benefit or not, in terms of the $19 million to help reduce the backlogs, I guess they're, appointing new adjudicators and increasing resources is good. In the past, they've just changed the name, and so maybe this will actually do something. And I'd like a better understanding of how that also affects us for appeal decisions as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Palashi, I think we will have moving forward quite a few information sessions for council and possibly workshops as well to have a better understanding. As I mentioned earlier, land use planning is not just a one department, and in fact lots of it happens through council approval, so you obviously need to be up to speed, and we'll come to you with lots of information. The issue actually of the resources, I'm glad you brought it up. I don't think the issue of the resources is only at the local appeal tribunal. I think this we're going to have impact also on our resources. So one of the things we're going to do with the cross-departmental team is that we're going to assess our ability to deliver with this new timelines, and that's why I said the regulations and all of that is going to be very important. As you're well aware, the development application approval process is a very complex process, and there's a fine line between due diligence and following due process and expediting. And the other piece is that turnaround times is easy to say, well, the planning department maybe is not meeting turnaround times. I think lots of those turnaround times have to be passed down the assembly line, not just to other internal departments, but external agencies as well, and holding them accountable. I don't see that in the piece of legislation, so that's a concern in terms of how we're going to be able to meet turnaround times if there is no mechanism to hold the external agencies and external ministries, for that matter, accountable for the same turnaround times. But we will get back to you with a comprehensive report and information about that.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Palaszczuk. I believe next is Councillor Singh.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the Queen Street BRT for Metrolinx. We did have the preliminary design business case RFP out, and I believe it closed. So do you know if that's been awarded to anybody, either to yourself or Alex?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair, if I could ask Alex, the Director of Transit.
And through the chair, what I understand is the RFP closed on February 10th. Metrolinx is evaluating the bidders, and from the last update we had received is that they'll be awarding that and having hopefully a contract within a couple of weeks, and then they'll start the technical aspects of this.
Okay, so probably next month, a couple of weeks, right?
My understanding, yeah, by the beginning of May, they should have a contract in place with the preferred bid.
Okay, and usually how much, is that technically the EA or the same thing? Or?
It's a preliminary design business case that they're going through.
Yeah.
And then that'll propagate into further studies like the EA.
Okay, and then there's nothing after the EA, correct?
After the EA is completed and passes through the TPAP process, and then again, subject to funding, then they can go out for the construction implementation part.
Okay, so we have initial business case, preliminary design business case, TPAT, and then, sorry, EA and then TPAT. Okay, and how long does the preliminary design business case normally take?
I would hesitate to comment on that through the chair because these are Metrolinx timelines, and I want to make sure that I'm not speaking out of terms for Metrolinx. We can definitely get request that from Metrolinx and understand what their timelines are for that project once they award, and we can share that with council.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So once it's awarded, if you report back to council in the government relations section with some timelines, because people have been asking me, so I just want to make sure I'm being accurate in my updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further speakers. Okay, so I'll have a motion moved by Councillor Singh, seconded by Councillor Palaszczuk to receive the presentation. Anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We now move on to staff report on asset namings, items 10.2.1. I know I held it, but I will give my place for next in line, and Councillor Bowman then, and then Councillor Santos. Go ahead.
Thank you very much through you, Acting Mayor. Before we get too deep into, there's a lot of stuff in this report, and I would like to refer the report to committee because I don't think residents have had much of a chance to read the report themselves or to come and delegate on any names that are on there or names that may not be on there. So I'd like to refer it to next committee meeting, which is next Wednesday.
Okay, so we have a referral on the floor. Councillor Santos speaking to the referral.
Thank you so much, and through you, Mr. Chair, I do support the referral, and after speaking with the clerk about this and some residents who have been emailing us as well, specifically the street names and parks, such as, I think it's Whitewash Lane or Way, and various other inappropriate names that have been controversial. I think it would be best to go back to the community in particular to get feedback on appropriate names, perhaps that are more on truth and reconciliation in Indigenous names versus replacing them with generic names such as Radio Park or Dispatcher Park. I think there's an opportunity to address some truth and reconciliation commitments that we've made as a city as we move away from those particular street names and parks, and would love to get the equity office's perspective and do some proper outreach. My son's school, which was formerly Sir John A. Macdonald School, recently had a name change with the blessing of the school board, and the name change was changed to Nibi Imo Sadang, which means water walker in Ojibwe. And it was a very meaningful renaming of that school from the Indigenous community. And although Sir John A. Macdonald played a very important part in the history of Canada, some of that history was never told. And so as part of Truth and Reconciliation, the renaming of that school has now become part of the story of Sir John A. Macdonald. And I'm hoping that with the renaming of some of these parks and streets, we may also take that into consideration as well. And so I'm happy to support the referral. I don't know if next Committee of Council, I think we might need more time. And after speaking with the clerk, he also agreed. I believe if Peter, you want to comment on the fact that some of the names regarding the streets themselves, the suggested names, were not necessarily approved anyway, so we kind of have to go back to the drawing board on the renaming regardless.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes, after the report was published with the agenda last week, we did receive back through planning responses from the Peel Street Names Committee, which is charged with responsibility of reviewing all street names across the region of Peel for emergency measures, emergency response matters, avoid duplication, things like that. The streets in particular that were suggested for being renamed, in terms of whitewash, or the new names that were suggested for Whitewash Way as being Dispatcher Drive, Native Landing being Radio Road, and Pilgrim Place being Transmission Trail. Those suggestions were refused by the Peel Street Names Committee, so if this matter is referred, then part of the discussion at a future Committee of Council meeting can be how to proceed to consider possible renaming should Council decide to go down that route.
Okay, anything further, Councillor Santos? Okay, thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to refer this for weeks, for months. I was just, the point I was making was I don't think we've had enough public feedback on some of these street names. So, Councillor Santos, if you've got a particular date or in mind, I'm happy to move that.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, I guess that's up to staff in terms of what that referral would look like. So I think the referral would be a referral back to staff with consideration to, community consultation on what appropriate names may be, specifically with the Indigenous community in the city of Brampton. I'm not sure how to word that, Peter, or what the proper process would be.
So through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I guess perhaps then some clarity is required, because if it's referral back to staff to do consultation with the community, is it on all these names? Does council wish to pursue possible renaming? Because if we're consulting on possible renaming. We have to consult with the public on something. So I think probably it sounds like there may need to be a discussion at the committee level whether or not to proceed with all or part of these recommendations, and it is a rather lengthy report dealing with park renaming as well as new street names as well as renaming existing streets. And then council or committee could determine which items to possibly proceed with, and others that do require further review and consultation. If that direction is given at the appropriate time, then staff could undertake that direction.
So I'm in agreement with that. So if we have time to refer this next week, we could all take a look at it and have some suggestions on which ones perhaps need more public consultation than others. And that way we're not holding back on some of the other names that everyone seems to be in agreement with.
Okay. Okay, so Councillor Dillon.
Thank you. So I support the referral, but I'm wondering, I had a question specific to Masjid Drive. I'm just wondering, yeah, I know it's the referrals on the floor. If I can just ask a quick question to staff in regards to that. Acting Mayor Medeiros.
Yeah, I'll give you that leniency. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so Eid is coming up on, I believe, May 2nd, and I'm just trying to. I've been working with the members of the Great Lakes Mosque. And a couple of questions I had was like, if you know we refer this to next week, it would get if it does pass, it would pass at the following the council meeting, and we were looking to have some type of formal like ceremony for the naming around Eid time. So I'm just wondering if staff could provide an update on, you know, if this were to, let's just say if this were to pass today, hypothetically, just what's the time frame we would see before we can actually officially get that name up?
Through the chair to Councillor Dillon, it's Mike Parks here. If it was approved today, as far as logistics of getting the sign up, we'd be able to do that within a week, probably quicker than that, depending on the situation. As long as all the approvals are in place, then it's very simple and a fairly quick process to install the sign.
So I'm just wondering if we could allow this to go ahead today, and just another question I had for you, Mike, was they wanted to have the I believe it was the masjid wanted to have its own address as one Masjid Drive. Has that also been looked to? I think that was something we had requested when this was passed.
Through the chair, Councillor, that wouldn't be something that would be dealt with by Public Works. I'm not sure if Alan Parsons' group maybe could comment in regard to the address for that location.
Yeah, thanks. And through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Rick Kennard on the line. It's the building division that has been looking at addressing details as it relates to sites throughout the city. Myself, I'm not familiar with, I guess, some of the steps, mechanics associated with addressing changes. Wondering if Rick might be able to speak to that matter.
Rick, are you able to comment? I guess while Rick is, he looks like he's connected, but his microphone's currently muted too. Councillor Dillon, to your question, so this originated from a council resolution, I believe, last fall, but at that time there was no request that staff were aware of that about readdressing that property. It was only to rename that portion of the street.
And so what we'll do is maybe I'll have a discussion with staff offline in regards to that, but I'm just wondering if council allows, we can move forward with passing Masjid Drive today. And again, I know myself, Councillor Singh, and the mayor, you know, we just as the local ward councillors, we kind of think it'd be special to have this as close as possible to Eid. And be nice for the local community as well. And so if it passes today, we can, you know, start working with the local community there and getting it up at an appropriate time and setting up a small little ceremony to commemorate it.
Okay, so you're going to be asking for a separation. City Clerk, how can we achieve that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, it's a there's multiple recommendations in the staff report. So where Councillor Dillon is requesting is that recommendation 3 effectively be pulled out and considered by council today, and that's the recommendation to rename Sailwind Road between the intersection of Loons Call Crescent and Smoothwater Street to Great Lakes Drive, affecting 2 properties to Masjid Drive. So if council wishes, they could pull that out, deal with that today, and refer the balance to Committee of Council next week.
Okay, so is that good with you, Councillor Dillon?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Singh? Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. And similar to Councillor Dillon, and I have, similar to actually Councillor Bowman first, I had a lot of kind of questions about this. It affects a lot of property owners with name changes, and we don't think about necessarily the businesses that it could potentially affect when people provide maps to their customers on either piece of paper or mail outs and stuff like that. So I do support the referral, but similar to Councillor Dillon, item number 5, those 3 particular parks, the holdout names being changed, I think that's something that I would also like to, I don't believe any member of council would have any issues with putting that forward either. I feel like all members of council just need a better understanding of the report as a whole, but in particular item 5, A, B, and C, and in particular to that, the Iguana Park and the Tamil community have really requested that this happen this month with some of the dignitaries that they have that are coming. I can't remember the date in April, but I know it's certainly coming up. So my request through you, Acting Mayor, to Councillor Bowman is if we can take out item number 5 of the referral as well, and if we could try and move that forward now, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll proceed to the next speaker. I think it's Councillor Fortini, and I assume Councillor Fortini, you're going to speak to item 5B as well. Is that's in your area? Yes, and I think you've been involved in that. Councillor Fortini.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to support Councillor Palashi and Dillon's and the referral. I just wanted to ask, we started this thing, a quick question on this Italian park, like at the beginning of the term. And where is it? To the staff, I'm asking when we get this up and going. I've been very patient, never brought anything forward, but it looks like all these parks again named it all. And we brought it to the beginning of the term, and I'm still waiting.
So through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, so Councillor Fortini, are you asking about naming a park Italian Heritage Park?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, we did approve this, but I've been waiting. I don't, never pushed it, but we're waiting for staff. But it looks like all these parks are getting named. But I have no issues. But when's this? I just want to know how far is this one out?
So, Councillor Fortini, we're told that we don't have a motion that you move for the park. But what we can do as a suggestion is, as we're moving referral, as part of the referral, if you would like to add consideration of Italian Heritage Park.
I thought we had 3 choices of a park. We even had a meeting with Councillor Williams, myself, and staff. It was supposed to be on Gore Way and where National's building. We had that. So that's what they were looking at. They were supposed to come back. I thought it was approved at the beginning of the term.
So maybe as part of the referral, staff can just do some homework, and then after we can report back next week. Are you okay with that?
Yep. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Singh.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, even these names that are being suggested, they're just going to a master list, correct? The ones that are being suggested as, because I've had these requests throughout the year, so it's not like they're approved for a street, the recommended street names. Those go to a master list, and then developers pull those names out of the master list once they've been approved.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes. Any name that's recommended for approval
Yeah.
goes to the master list.
Yeah, perfect.
However, there are some recommendations in this report seeking council direction that'll be discussed next week about actually renaming existing
Yeah,
streets.
I saw that, yep. And I just want to clarify, because these did come through my office as Garnet Manning and Rupi Kaur, those weren't for streets, those were for parks. So you can, when you come back, you can change them for the parks, because I know for streets, we have difficulty doing first name and last name, so it's under street name review, but they should be for parks, both of them. Okay, and secondly, I saw Avtar Aujla actually as well, and I saw that the committee recommended it be Avtar or Aujla, but then it says city staff recommendation to accept Avtar Aujla. So does that mean a street name will be Avtar or Aujla, or will we do Avtar Aujla as a street name?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So staff recommendation 2A on the report recommends naming it Avtar Aujla.
Okay.
In spite of the Peel Street Naming Committee recommendations.
Pardon?
In spite of the Peel Street Naming
Okay, just wanted to make
recommendations.
sure. Okay, thank you. Just wanted that
Okay.
clarification.
Thank you very much. So we have a referral moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Santos, with proposed amendments that as part of the referral, that staff look at the addition of Italian Heritage Park and just double check to see if there was any, because there was apparently meetings, we'll just do some back checking there. And then we have, so that's a separate motion, right? The motion moved by Councillor Dillon, or is that, can we?
It can be included as part of the referral motion.
Okay, so we'll include that. And I believe Councillor Singh, you want to second it? Yeah, so seconded by Councillor Singh regarding.
Sorry, Mr. Acting Mayor,
That was
there's
Councillor
speakers listed,
Palashi,
yeah.
yeah. That was Councillor Palashi who moved that.
And we do have more speakers. We have Councillor Paleshi, followed by Councillor Willens, followed by Councillor
Yeah, so
Dillon.
Councillor Palashi moved number 5. And then Councillor Dillon.
So for Councillor Paleshi and Councillor Dillon's motion, we do require seconders.
Okay, so I believe Councillor Fortini wanted to second Councillor Palashi's, and Councillor Singh is seconding Councillor Dillon's. Okay, speakers? What do we have, Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Councillor Paleshi, followed by Councillor Willens, and then Councillor Dillon.
Okay, Councillor Palashi, go ahead.
Sorry, and thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor, and Councillor Willens and I both just received an email from a resident asking us to have a look at taking away Trump Lane. I think we can all agree that any name associated with Donald Trump isn't welcome in the city of Brampton. So I think if there's an opportunity, and I don't need to put forward a motion right now, I just wanted to get it on the record that I think Trump Lane is something that we should be looking at getting rid of in the city of Brampton, and happy to speak to that further when this referral comes back next council. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And our next speaker is Councillor Willens.
Thank you, through you, Acting Mayor. Speaking to the referral, when it comes back next week, Peter, we can still add names when it comes back, because I do have some names that I did suggest to staff, but don't seem to be on the list. So does next week give us the opportunity?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any, sorry? Oh, Councillor Dillon, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick kind of comment, a question to Mike Parks. You know, if this does pass, or when it does pass, if we can kind of connect and kind of discuss when it will go up, and just maybe if we can speak to get a conversation with somebody from our event staff as well. So just a heads up, I'll be reaching out to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have several motions, and Peter, City Clerk, how should we handle this?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So the first motion perhaps in order, we'll take Councillor Dillon's motion first, which is the motion on the screen to formalize the renaming to Masjid Drive.
So we have a motion moved by Councillor Dillon, second by Councillor Singh. Anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries. We'll go on to our next motion moved by Councillor Palashi, second by Councillor Fortini. Anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries. And now to the main motion of referral, moved by Councillor Bowman, second by Councillor Santos. Anyone opposed? I see none. Great. So we are now at the time. We move on to, we are next on committee report minutes. We'll do the minutes, and then after I suggest we break for lunch, if that's okay. So quickly, our first set of minutes are from Committee of Council. I see Councillor Bowman. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Mayor. I just wanted to ask, on the referred matters list, I had mentioned it at the last meeting on Wednesday about the animal shelter, and we were told that it is on the go, and I'm just wondering whether I can get a project number for that so we can put that on the referred matters list so that we can continually look at that. So I don't know, maybe accounting, I don't know if there's a project number for it.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bowman, I don't have that number in front of me right now, but I will ensure that it gets on the list.
Okay,
for
yeah,
tracking
just
purposes.
the project number so we can add it to the referred matters list so we've got an actual.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bowman. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman, second by Councillor Singh to receive the minutes of Committee of Council March 30th. Anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries.
Sorry, through you, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. So I believe we're talking about item 12.3, April 13th, Committee of Council minutes, not March 30th. That was approved on consent.
My apologies. So we're at item. Okay, so do we, and planning was in consent? Okay. So then, again, should I reread this? So moved by Councillor Bowman, second by Councillor Singh to approve committee recommendations of April 13th. Anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries. So before, so I suggest it's 12:21. Can we come back at 1:30? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. This meeting is now recessed until 1:30. Present in chambers is Councillor Bowman, Councillor Basante, and Councillor Santos. Members present online appear to be Mayor Brown, Councillor Palashi, Councillor Williams, Councillor Willens, and Councillor Singh has just joined in person. And Councillor Medeiros has joined in person. Are you going to be chairing the rest? Are you chairing the rest of the meeting? Okay. So
Okay.
at 1:30, we can proceed.
For FCM Board of Directors. This matter is deferred from our April 6th council meeting, and we also have related correspondence under 14.2. Are there any speakers? Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am still happy to move the motion if I can have a seconder. And would note for members of council, there's a number of pieces of correspondence related to this that I'm happy to move a receipt as well.
Okay.
I'm happy to second it, Councillor Willens.
Okay, so seconded by Councillor Willens. And effectively be it for the result, the council assumes all costs associated with Councillor Rowena Santos attending FCM's Board of Directors meetings. Or anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries. Our next item, we approve the minutes. Do we need a motion? No, not for the Board of Directors.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The next item would be under other new business, referred matters list, 16.1, followed by 16.2, the added item from Mayor Brown regarding Journey to Freedom Day.
Okay, so 16.1, are there any questions from members regarding our referred matters list? I see none. Okay, so we now go to public question period. Are there questions from members of the public?
Before that, Mr. Chair, we have 16.2
Oh,
from
my
Mayor Brown
apologies.
regarding Journey to Freedom Day.
So we have motion moved by Mayor Brown, second by Councillor Williams. Sir.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, we need to confirm, is the mayor present? Because members have to be present if they're...
If he's not, I'm happy to move it.
I do see Mayor Brown in the session. Mayor Brown, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I had a problem with the volume.
Okay. So then it would be moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor Williams.
Okay, is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. We now move on to public question period. Any questions from members of the public? City Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm just going to check now, and there do not seem to be.
Okay, so we now are at the portion of the meeting with adoption of city bylaws to give effect to council decisions made at the meeting. I have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente and seconded by Councillor Bowman to approve the bylaws. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? I see none, so the motion carries. Our next item of business is closed session business. And so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Singh, seconded by Councillor Bowman to move into closed session to deal with the following items. And how much time do you need, City Clerk?
Mr. Chair, perhaps 10 minutes would be helpful. And we're going into closed session just for 3 items, 19.5, 19.6, and 19.7.
Okay. So as noted, it's 1:34, so we'll meet back in closed session at 1:45.
Thank you.
So members of staff, members of the public watching today's council meeting, council has concluded its closed session business and will be resuming in public session at 3:10. So members of council, just before we get started, I'm just going to review the members I do see online. I see Councillor Paleshi. I see Councillor Willens. I see Councillor Williams. And currently in the council chambers is Councillor Bowman, Councillor Santos, and Councillor Vicente. And Councillor Fortini is arriving in person, and Councillor Medeiros as Deputy Mayor chairing today's meeting. And Councillor Singh, sorry, my apologies.
Okay, thank you very much, City Clerk. So I guess we want to report out what transpired in camera. If you can report out, City Clerk.
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes. So we're just going to report out from close as 19.1 through 19.4 were actually considered as part of the consent motion. 19.4 we'll start with, even though it was part of the consent motion, direction was deemed to have been given, and business arising from that, there is a public motion, so we'll deal with that first. So we'll go to the public motion arising from item 19.5 that was approved as part of the consent motion. So it's deemed that the following be considered in public session, and we will require a mover and seconder.
Okay, Councillor Bowman moving it and seconded by Councillor Singh.
Okay, if you can just take a vote on that.
Okay, is there anyone opposed? I see none, the motion carries.
And then we can go back to item 19.5. That item was considered in closed session, and information was received, and no direction was given. Then we moved on to 19.6. That item was considered in closed session, information was received, and direction was given to staff. And then finally, 19.7. That item was considered in closed session, information was received, and no direction was given to staff. And that is the report out from closed session, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And our next item of business is adjournment. Council is next scheduled to meet May 4th. I do have a motion moved by Councillor. Yes. Oh, my apologies. Oh, the confirming bylaw. Our next item of business, confirming bylaw. I have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente, seconded by Councillor Santos, to approve the confirming bylaw to confirm the proceedings and decisions from this meeting. Is anyone opposed? I see none, so now I have a motion for adjournment, moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Fortini. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, so the motion carries. We are now adjourned and have a good rest of